On October 5th, 2022, a man wearing a surgical mask and a baseball cap walked into the John W. Harshberger building at the University of Arizona, carrying a handgun. That day, he had come to campus with a deadly plan, 4 targets in mind. He managed to find one before fleeing the scene, leaving behind a trail of blood and fear, and then made his way toward Mexico. The gunman opened fire inside the building, endangering the lives of everyone inside and tragically killing one person, a respected and beloved professor. What makes this case especially disturbing is how unsurprised many people were by what happened. In fact, the person least shocked by the violence was the victim himself. Located on over 350 acres in Tucson, the University of Arizona is home to more than 500 professors and serves over 40,000 undergraduate and 10,000 graduate students. For most, Wednesday, October 5th, 2022, seemed like a typical day. The fall semester was in full swing, and the Arizona sun was shining brightly across campus. Inside the John W. Harshberger building, which houses the Hydrology and Atmospheric Sciences Department, a group of self-described weather nerds, the afternoon took a dark turn. Just before 2 p.m., physical scientist Kayla McCall spotted someone in the hallway. She immediately recognized him as a person who had been banned from campus. He wore a mask, walked the corridors, and peered into office doors. Acting quickly, Kayla and Associate Professor Martha Whitaker locked themselves inside a nearby office, shut off the lights, and hid beneath a desk. While hiding, Dr. Whitaker dialed 911, knowing that the threat inside the building was very real.
911. Hi, my name is Martha Whitaker. I'm in the Harshberger building. There has been a report of someone who has been expelled who was in our building. His name is Murad Dervish.
Police were dispatched to the John W. Harshberger building at exactly 2:04 p.m. However, just 1 minute later, the sound of gunfire echoed through the halls. Faculty members inside the building heard the shots. Dr. Thomas Meixner, the head of the department, had been struck. Multiple 911 calls poured in around the same time, which initially led to some confusion about whether there might be more than one active shooter incident unfolding elsewhere on campus.
We have a shot. Somebody got shot in the Harshberger building. Room 122, traumatic.
Traumatic was shot?
Tom Meixner, I'm sorry. He's bleeding. He's got shot 3 times. He's been shot in the chest. He's bleeding.
Okay, was this related to another shooting suspect?
Yes. Dervish. What is his name? Dervish. Dervish.
Law enforcement responded swiftly, but unfortunately, not in time to prevent the tragedy. As medical teams worked urgently to treat Dr. Tom Meixner and transported him to the hospital, Tucson police swept through the Harshberger building, then expanded their search to the surrounding areas in pursuit of the gunman. Meanwhile, students received a campus-wide alert via text message instructing them to evacuate. At that point, it was still unknown whether the shooter was still in the vicinity.
UAPD had a shooting.
We do not know what we're walking into.
They do not know if he's still armed.
The subject wearing oversized shirt and shorts shot a head of department.
An officer's dash cam happened to capture the gunman's van as it entered the scene. Unfortunately, the officers were unaware at the time that they were passing the suspect's vehicle. The van drove away unnoticed. The shooter, recognized by several witnesses, was identified as 46-year-old Murad Dervish, a former graduate student in the department. He had previously been expelled, dismissed from his role as a teaching assistant, and officially banned from campus. That day, he returned to seek out the department head, gunned him down, and fled. Dr. Tom Meixner was rushed to the hospital but was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. The gunman had fired at least 11 shots, 5 of which struck the professor. The bullets, hollow points, expanded on impact, inflicting devastating injuries. One of the first to notice Murad Dervish inside the Hydrology and Atmospheric Sciences building was research specialist Tim Corley. Before any shots were fired, Tim spotted Dervish and alerted colleagues to call 911. Moments later, gunfire rang out. Tim saw Tom running down the hallway before being shoved into an office door by Dervish. It was in that office, Tim said, that Tom was shot again. Executive Assistant Irma Santander had been working in that very office. While she wasn't hit, Tim himself was shot in the leg. The final words they heard from Tom before he lost consciousness were directed at his attacker. Cursing Dervish, he said, "I knew you were going to." No one, it seemed, was truly surprised that it had come to this. In his 52 years, Dr. Tom Meixner had built a life marked by humility, dedication, and love. Though not one to boast, his proudest accomplishment was his family. He was a devoted husband to his wife Kathleen and a caring father to their 2 sons. Professionally, he was admired as a brilliant, curious scientist and a kind-hearted colleague. Tom had overcome cancer 4 times in his life, a testament to his strength. His tragic death left a deep wound not only within his family and university, but throughout the broader community. With the state facing a severe water crisis due to shortages in the Colorado River, many saw Tom's expertise as irreplaceable. His loss was described as a blow to all of Arizona. Surveillance footage later showed Dervish's van leaving campus at high speed. After heading toward California, he turned south toward the Mexican border. Roughly 3 hours later, law enforcement located him on Arizona State Road 85, over 120 miles northwest of Tucson. When he refused to pull over, officers used a pit maneuver to spin the vehicle and bring it to a halt. Murad Dervish, the 46-year-old former graduate student, was taken into custody.
Our custody time today is 1710 hours, and it was the Department of Public Safety that took the suspect into custody after a traffic stop just outside Gila Bend, Arizona.
Following the shooting, University Police Chief Paula Bifas addressed the media. However, her remarks appeared out of touch with the long-standing concerns within the hydrology department. Despite months of fear surrounding Murad Dervish, Chief Bifas spoke as if the tragedy had come out of nowhere. Her comments, especially those framing the incident as unpredictable, were met with frustration and disappointment. Faculty members revealed that they had been alarmed by Dervish's behavior since at least February. Yet despite repeated warnings, no action had been taken to protect them or prevent the situation from escalating.
Everything did work like clockwork, though. We got our campus alerts out very quickly. We secured the building very quickly. And as I said, it's a tremendously tragic event. We feel so incredibly bad for the professor's family, friends, and colleagues. And our hearts really just go out to them. It's definitely a tragedy. And I think that it's just one of those things that sometimes you can't even predict.
Did the suspect have a criminal background?
I don't have that information.
That same evening, at the police station, detectives worked quickly to unravel the disturbing history of Murad Dervish. As he sat waiting to be questioned, Murad began ranting without much prompting, giving investigators a glimpse into the mindset that led to the shooting. At one point, he said, "I hope he's okay, but that's probably wishful thinking," hinting at a twisted mix of regret and resignation regarding his actions toward his former professor.
$18,000 in that, so that wasn't I wasn't inherited for a while. It's always disrespected that.
Once inside the interview room, detectives started with basic questions, asking Murad about his background, where he had been living, and what he had been doing prior to coming to Tucson.
You lived anywhere else? In my whole life. I lived in Pennsylvania for a while.
Overseas ever?
No.
California, Pennsylvania, Arizona. Okay.
That's it.
Before relocating to Tucson, detectives discovered that Murad Dervish had previously lived in Pennsylvania, where he completed his bachelor's degree. He had also spent time in South Carolina living with his parents, and later moved to California, where he enrolled in graduate studies at the University of San Diego. It was there that troubling behavior began to surface. He faced issues after harassing a female student, a pattern that would later resurface in Arizona. Inside Murad's van, investigators found a copy of a restraining order filed by the undergraduate student he had targeted. Reports indicated that Murad had contacted her on 30 separate occasions despite being warned. Frustrated by the lack of action, the student had once told campus police that it seemed like no one would intervene until someone was killed. It wasn't just university faculty and students who foresaw the potential for violence. Morad's own mother, Patricia, had filed a restraining order against him years earlier, alleging that he had attempted to kill her. Although the details of that case remain sealed, it painted a disturbing picture. According to Morad's father, the signs of aggression had been present since childhood. His violent outbursts reportedly began around age 10. One of the earliest incidents involved him pulling a knife on a babysitter.
Pulled a knife on a pizza man, started breaking things, and he threw things at me and hurt me. So there he tried to kill his mother.
When Dolan Dervish learned about the murder, he was devastated, but sadly, not shocked.
My first impression was, it finally happened. He killed somebody. My heart goes for this young man. He's 52 years old. We studied all about him. He was a wonderful man.
Dolan Dervish had seen his son's struggles firsthand. Morad had been incarcerated 3 times and had been involuntarily committed for mental health treatment on 2 occasions, once in 1998 and again in 2011. His second hospitalization led to diagnoses, including schizophrenia. Morad's condition was marked by paranoid delusions, and his father repeatedly begged authorities to intervene and provide the necessary care for his son.
Put him in prison and punish him, you will think, in 2 years, and let him out, and nothing will be done.
Morad had been enrolled in the master's degree program in atmospheric sciences within the Department of Hydrology and Atmospheric Sciences at the University of Arizona. His instability had been evident since he began the program in the fall of 2021. After receiving a grade he disagreed with, Morad erupted in the middle of class, shouting obscenities at a professor. This outburst cost him his graduate assistant position, but it only seemed to fuel his anger. As his behavior grew increasingly erratic, Morad began making threats that frightened faculty members so much that they moved their classes to Zoom for safety. In response to the mounting tension and harassment, Morad was expelled from the program and banned from campus in February. In April, he sent an email to the department writing, "I don't think you have any clue who you're dealing with, but you're about to find out, and I really don't think you're going to like it." 2 weeks later, he followed up with another message, warning, "If I am not reinstated, I promise the consequences are going to be absolutely catastrophic." The day after receiving that email, University police visited Morad at home to inform him he was being cited for threats and intimidation. However, the Pima County Attorney's Office later chose not to pursue the charges.
In addition, I just want to reiterate to you about your contact with university officials. To continue the threatening type of behavior, additional charges can be added. If you're on university property, on university campus, trespassing charges apply as well. Those charges can be added. So that's just a caution to you, sir.
So what is it again? It's a citation for what?
There's 2 charges for threats and intimidation, sir.
For threats?
Yes, sir.
Made by me, you're saying?
That's what the charges are for, yes, sir.
And they're misdemeanor threats?
They are, that's correct.
Well, I didn't make any threats to anyone, so I don't know what.
Yeah, that's something.
Despite being banned from campus, Morad continued to return, leaving staff members in constant fear for their safety for the next 10 months. A flyer featuring his photograph was circulated to all university staff, along with instructions to call 911 if he was spotted on the premises. Professors shared stories of nervously walking to and from their classes, always alert for any sign of Morad lurking nearby, ready to strike. One professor even went so far as to buy a bulletproof vest, and another switched offices within the Harshberger building for safety. This decision likely saved his life, as it was his former office that Morad first visited after arriving on campus with his gun on October 5th. When he found only graduate students there instead of the professor, Morad moved on. Professor Chris Castro, who had taken over as department head after Tom's death, also took steps to protect himself, filing a personal protection order. Meanwhile, in the interview room, after the initial small talk and basic questions, Morad decided it was in his best interest to stop cooperating with investigators.
Actually, like beyond the charges, I really don't want to answer any more questions. I don't think I should really answer any more questions. Without a lawyer.
Okay, well, you're free to answer whatever questions you want.
Yeah.
If you choose not to answer a question, that's completely within your rights. So if I read you a question you don't want to answer, just say I don't want to answer it.
Yeah.
Does that work for you?
Well, I think I'd rather, just talk to a lawyer, first before.
Okay.
I would just like to know the charges and then.
Okay.
Get a lawyer. Wait for the lawyer.
It's really unfortunate because I would really like to hear your story. I was an undergrad here a long time ago, and I got treated really poorly by the staff here.
Yeah. You'll be able to, you'll hear my story in court. Yeah, if you're there.
However, the former graduate student told detectives that he did have a few questions. He claimed he had no understanding of the charges being brought against him.
So right now, there's a gentleman, Tim Corley, who was injured today. I don't know if you know Tim. Tim was hit by a stray bullet. So that's, at a minimum, we're looking at aggravated assault. So that's one of the charges I'm looking at.
Okay. That's the only charge.
No, there are others I'm considering.
Such as?
If you don't want to talk to me without a lawyer, that's fine. We can wrap this up pretty quick. We have quite a bit of evidence. And I think you know what that evidence is, but I'm not going to press you on that. I am charging you with murder in the first degree.
Oh. Okay.
You look surprised.
You tell me of whom?
Murad remained tight-lipped and refused to provide any information or discuss the shooting, despite the overwhelming evidence linking him to the crime. Shortly after his arrest, detectives conducted a search of his van. Inside, they discovered 2 loaded handguns, a 9mm and a .25 caliber, both small and easily concealable. Along with the guns were 5 knives, a machete, a signal jammer, 3 cell phones, and a can of mace. Casings matching those found at the crime scene were also located in the vehicle. Additionally, there were several personal items that suggested Murad had stopped paying rent and had been evicted from his home, likely resorting to living in the van. Although Murad insisted he would not speak without a lawyer present, he spoke aloud to himself moments later, unaware that the camera was still recording after the detectives had left the room.
Okay. I would really like to hear what you have to say today. We found a gun in your car.
I'm sure you would like to hear it.
We found a gun in your car. From this order of protection. It looks like you're prohibited from possessing any firearms.
Well, it's a shame we can't talk. We seem like we have a lot in common. Going to U of A and living in San Diego. Unfortunately, I can't speak with you without a lawyer.
You are free to. Those are your right. You are free to speak with me.
I am. Yes, I know. Well, at least I fulfilled my mission.
County prosecutors proceeded with first-degree murder charges in Pima County Superior Court. The case against Murad Dervish was strong, but lingering questions remained. Investigators discovered that Murad still had thousands of dollars in his bank account. He was far from destitute after losing his teaching position. He could have paid his rent, yet he chose to let himself be evicted and began living out of his van. According to Murad, his initial intention when he entered the Harshberger building that day was to confront Tom Minner about the loss of his studies and teaching job. He had hoped for an apology and possibly compensation for what he believed was an unfair decision by the faculty. He claimed to have carried his gun because he always did, which he argued was not an indication of premeditation. Prosecutors believed Murad's resentment over his bad grade and subsequent expulsion played a role, but further investigation revealed another potential motive: anti-Semitism. In several messages sent to department staff, Morad used derogatory language to describe what he believed was a Jewish and Asian-led conspiracy against him. Many of these messages were sent to a professor of Arab descent, accusing him of assisting his colleagues' schemes and betraying him. In one message, Morad wrote, "I hope somebody blows your brains out." After conducting a Google search on Tom Meixner, Morad concluded that the department head was Jewish, though in reality, Tom was Catholic. Despite the troubling nature of Morad's messages, a warning was sent to Tom by this professor, indicating that Morad might pose a threat. When the case went to trial, it was not pursued as a hate crime, though the timing of the attack, on Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the Jewish calendar, did not go unnoticed. Morad attempted to represent himself in court and also tried to have his lawyers dismissed, but was unsuccessful in both attempts. He was found competent to stand trial but offered a guilty except insane defense. If this defense succeeded, he would be sent to a mental health facility instead of prison.
Know that he's having delusions. He thinks things that aren't happening are happening.
Gavin Baker, a psychologist, was called to testify for the defense. He explained that Morad was suffering from paranoia and delusions, believing that a conspiracy was being orchestrated against him. Baker stated that Morad confronted Tom Meixner while in a delusional state, reacting explosively to the situation. He further argued that at the time of the incident, Morad was unable to distinguish right from wrong.
Although guilty of the charges against him, was legally insane under Arizona law, as he had a chronic mental illness of such great severity that he did not know that what he was doing was wrong.
I'm just trying to understand how we get to an analysis of being so severe he can't tell right from wrong with your testing results.
The prosecution argued that while Morad Dervish may have been mentally ill, the evidence overwhelmingly showed that he was fully aware of his actions. They pointed to the fact that Morad had planned the attack and understood that what he was doing was wrong. In a mental health assessment, Morad even admitted that he knew his actions were illegal.
You said to them, there's a lot of evidence against me, right? And then you asked, is there a death penalty in Arizona? So clearly, if you're saying there's a lot of evidence against me, is there a death penalty in Arizona? You're aware of the fact that you broke the law.
Yeah.
Okay.
The fact that Morad drove aggressively away from the campus after the attack also indicated his awareness of guilt. He justified his attempt to flee by claiming that he thought Tim Corley, whom he had shot with his final bullet, was armed with a gun.
I guess the last shot hit Mr. Corley in the leg. He kind of went down. He kind of bent down very fast, and I felt like he may be going for a gun or something. And that's how it came to one out of the. Because I knew I didn't have any bullets left.
Okay.
So I ran out.
Prosecutors contended that Morad's explanation was illogical. Why would Tim Corley be carrying a gun? And how could Morad have felt threatened by someone he had just shot? The defense, however, argued that this reasoning made sense from the perspective of someone suffering from paranoid delusions. After leaving the scene of the murder, Morad reached out to his mother. Their communication had been sporadic over the years, as she found their conversation so hostile that she frequently changed her phone number to avoid him. On October 5th, however, Morad managed to contact her and left a voicemail.
Mom, I gotta talk to you. I shot that guy. I hope he's dead.
Conflicting testimony from mental health experts was presented to the jury, who deliberated for less than 3 hours before returning a verdict. Morad Dervish was found guilty of first-degree premeditated murder, with no exceptions made for insanity.
The 5th day of October 2022, as a result of the death of Thomas Meixner as follows. Guilty.
For Tom Meixner's family, the guilty verdict provided some sense of justice, but it was not enough. While the criminal case against Tom's killer moved forward, Kathleen Meixner focused her attention on an area that desperately needed change: the University of Arizona's security and safety protocols. It had become an undeniable truth that Morad had posed a significant threat for months, yet university security and officials took little or no action. In March 2023, the Meixner family filed a $9 million notice of claim against the university, citing multiple failures in its duty to protect Tom and the campus community. University President Robert Robbins stated that campus police had tried to pursue charges against Morad on 2 separate occasions prior to the shooting and had taken their concerns to Pima County prosecutors, but were told there was insufficient evidence. In January 2023, the Faculty Committee on University Safety released a report calling attention to what it described as a glaring institutional failure that had seriously compromised the safety of the university community.
There are so many opportunities as you go through this report that we can improve upon to be better suited for any kind of threat in the future.
The report also revealed that on the day of the murder, Morad Dervish targeted 4 faculty members, including Professor Meixner. One professor was teaching in a different classroom at the time, another had just left the building moments before the shooting, and a third was out of town on professional business. According to one faculty member, it was purely by chance that the other potential victims survived, and the incident was not a mass shooting. In the aftermath, the university reached a $2.5 million settlement with the Meixner family, with several stipulations, including a comprehensive overhaul of security measures to prevent similar incidents in the future. Morad Dervish's sentencing is set for June 24, 2024, with the state intending to seek a life sentence without the possibility of parole.